The next speaker is a lifelong human rights advocate. He currently works for the Government of Canada and is the former director of the Office of Immigration and Multiculturalism in Newfoundland and Labrador, and chair of the Newfoundland and Labrador Human Rights Commission, as well as a featured speaker for Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Speak Truth to Power project on awareness and education. He will speak on the experiences of Kosovar refugees and the broader human rights lessons that is learned from it. Please join me in welcoming Remzi Cej.
As you can imagine, this is an emotional topic for all of us, so I've taken some notes, and I'll be reading from my notes just to keep me on track, because I'm sure most of you are keen to leave the room soon. I'm standing between you and the book signing. Thank you very much, Krenare and Organizing Committee, for the invitation to join you. I do want to start with an acknowledgement that I'm joining you this evening in Toronto, but I'm originally, I'm currently living in the traditional and historic lands of the Beothuk and Mi'kmaq in Nitaquamok, which is currently known as Newfoundland and Labrador. It is a pleasure to be here this evening for many reasons, for very personal reasons that many of you have outlined already. But it's especially meaningful for Kosovars from the East Coast who call Toronto the place with a Kosovar deli and grocery store. We love to go to North York and get our Kosovar sujuk supplies before we head off to see Kylie Minogue, and as it happens, Taylor Swift. That's my plan for this weekend, and then the plan for spring is Kylie, so hopefully see you in a few months' time again. There's something about empathy that connects people from seemingly radically different backgrounds to fellow humans in need wherever they may be. It's that universal ability to transcend differences in favor of the common humanity we share. By mid-April 1999, my parents, my uncle, and I found ourselves forced out of our home and our community by the Serbian paramilitary, walking aimlessly along with tens of thousands of other Kosovars systematically expelled from our communities because of our ethnic identity. We were the lucky ones. 20 members of my extended family were murdered while they were seeking shelter, while they were farming, while they were walking, while they were traveling on a bus. My older brother was missing from the war for nearly 6 years, and the tendency to want to hate would have been very easy. And yet something happened during this time of desperation that kept reminding us that there were decent people working hard to end the attacks on Kosovars. Late at night, in the dark and cold basement of our home, we listened to Radio Free Europe on a radio powered by a car battery and marveled at the fact that the world cared about what we were going through. In that very dark, very cold basement, hiding from Serbian military attacks, we felt like the world was determined to act to protect us. People around the world marched for an end to violence against Kosovars, and the Kosovar experience taught us that sometimes intervention is needed to stop human rights abuses, as Dr. Axworthy made a strong case for this evening, and reminding us of our responsibilities to protect vulnerable civilians when their governments can't, won't, or are actively working to persecute and target them. It may have seemed counterintuitive to some that military action can bring about civilian protection, but when we heard the NATO planes flying above the sky or leaflets falling from above telling Serbian troops that they were fighting an unjust war, we knew we were not forgotten. I'm here today thanks to that action that you and your colleagues did, Canadian Armed Forces friends who are here, and we were very honored that we were able to thank you for that service. On day 4 of our 9-day walk, we walked into a scene of a Serbian woman who, on the side of the road, was wiping her tears while she was filling up water bottles for dozens of thirsty people. The pain was visible on her face, and though many of us were angry, this gesture diffused a lot of it. The mental image of this woman has remained with me, and over the years has represented an example of the power of individual action. One person couldn't stop the war, but they could make a difference in the lives of others affected by it. Our arrival in Canada has given me a chance to build on this idea of the power of individual action through engagement at community and national level. And very quickly after arrival, I became aware of how common my experience of ethnic cleansing was around the world. It was overwhelming to think about the fact that at any given time, there were 200 internal, civil, and international wars and conflicts as I walked peacefully to and from my school in St. John's. But it was also a call to action because I couldn't take for granted this privilege of living in peace. I spoke at parliamentary committees, I organized public demonstrations, held community talks and petitions, urging the Canadian government to use its voice to do the right thing. Whether it was in Darfur, in Myanmar, in Guantanamo Bay, or in Canada itself, when same-sex marriage became a national issue for Canadians and a very personal issue for me. Most importantly, becoming Canadian imbued a sense of responsibility to act in the face of injustice. With the adoption of citizenship, we had the responsibility to learn about the horrific past of Indigenous settler relations and to commit to do better. Each and every one of us has the ability to do this, and I know fellow Kosovar Canadians are making that difference across this country. The display boards that you've been seeing this evening further confirm this. My Kosovar family has remained in Newfoundland and Labrador for all these years because some very kind souls, and I'll name them this evening, Father Andrew Hall and the Titford family, who knew very little about Kosovo and much less about my family, stepped up to help as sponsors when they saw gruesome war scenes on their TV screens. Their humanity, their kindness, and generosity of spirit have turned us into lifelong Newfoundlanders and Labradorians by choice, and proud Kosovar Canadians who continue to pay it forward in all the ways we can. This evening, thank you, Canada, for changing our lives and making it possible for us to make a difference in someone else's. Faleminderit.
I really thought I was going to get through tonight without crying, and I did not. So thank you, Remzi Cej, for your reflections.